Anyways, back to this. All right, so what's the relationship between your frames of reference? Well, let's do it this way. Let's see if I can think of a good example. Why did you get up this morning? Okay, why? Why did you want to come to class? This class?
Yes.
Okay, so why do you want to come? This is a serious question. Why did you want to come to class?
To get the knowledge that is going to be, that is something I'm going to be tested on.
Okay. Is there any reason other than the testing that you came to class? It's okay. You can. This is not a trap. You can say whatever you want. They're just straight questions. Okay, so let's say no for the time being, or not for reasons that you can immediately bring to mind. Okay, why does the test matter?
For the degree.
Okay, why do you care about the degree?
To get a job.
Okay, whose decision was it that you took the degree that you're taking?
Mine.
Yours, okay. Did your parents have any influence on that?
No.
No, okay. What job are you after?
Psychology.
Clinical?
Yes.
Clinical psychologist. Why do you want to do that? Again, I'm going to question you till you run out of answers. You will run out of answers. So if this is the time, that's fine. Why do you want to do clinical psychology?
To help people.
To help people. Okay. Why is that more important to you than making money?
Because it helps me interact.
How?
It sort of makes me happy to see other people get over their problems. Okay.
All right, good. Well, that's pretty good. You had lots of answers. So sometimes you can run people out of answers with about 3 questions. So, all right, so small action perception nested in larger action perception, nested in larger action perception, all the way out to, well, till you run out of answers, fundamentally, right? So, and that's where, at the edge where you run out of answers, that's where metaphysics takes over. Because you're not in a rational domain anymore. You're in a metaphysical domain at that point. And so you have implicit assumptions that you don't even know about that are working on the fringes. And we'll talk about that a little bit. Okay, so then we could take a category like, we'll do a microanalysis the same way. So you're at home and you're tickling the baby. All right, so we'll note first that's not an abstraction. Right? There's an actual baby and you're moving your fingers. And so that's not just an abstract conceptualization. It's also where your consciousness ends. You're tickling the baby, but you don't know how you're doing it. You don't know the musculature. You don't know how to manipulate the little organs and everything. You can just do it. So bang, you're out of the perceptual domain at that point. It grounds out in voluntary action. All right, so you're tickling the baby. What are you doing when you're tickling the baby? Well, you're making the baby laugh. Okay, that's one way. You're playing with the baby. Okay, so fine. That's a subset of the activity play with baby. And you can play peekaboo with the baby, or you can tickle the baby, you can clean the baby. And all of that can be part of playing. And you might say, well, what are you doing when you're playing with a baby? And you'd say, well, I'm taking care of my family. And fine, and then you think, well, what are you doing when you're taking care of your family? And you might say, well, I'm being a good parent. And then you might say, well, what am I doing when I'm being a good parent? You might say, well, I'm being a good person. And then you could say, well, why should you be a good person? But we won't go any farther than that. It's because you can see that that's sort of in some sense, that's an ultimate level of abstraction. Okay, so what do you do? Someone comes up to you and you're tickling the baby and you say, well, I'm being a good person. They ask, what are you doing? I'm being a good person. It's like, it's a bit disjointed. It isn't what the person would expect as an answer. They'd expect something more local, but it's still true. And so what's interesting is that when you're doing something that's, well, I would say worthwhile. That's probably the right way of thinking about it. You're doing a whole bunch of things simultaneously. And you're not really aware of all those things, but you are in some sense, because if someone might come along and say, well, what kind of idiot tickles a baby like that? It's like, well, what have they said? Well, they've kind of nailed you here down on the micro tickle level, but they're sort of also taking a pretty good crack at this high level system as well. Now, and that's a problem. So let's say, well, good parent is a subset of being a good person, but there's all sorts of other. Maybe you have to be a good partner. Maybe you have to be a good daughter. Maybe you have to be a good niece. You know, your ability to function as a good person is composed of a very large number of hierarchically nested subsystems. And so when the person goes, only an idiot would tickle the baby like that, and they go after that, you might think, well, how upset should you get? And the answer is, well, how valid do you think their complaint is? So let's say maybe only an idiot would tickle a baby like that, and you happen to be that idiot. And so, well, maybe you're not a good person. And so what does that mean? It means that the map that consists of all these nested subsystems has now become unreliable. And so how upset are you going to get about that? Well, you know, maybe you had a bad day at work and you're kind of hypoglycemic and you had too much to drink the night before, and so someone says, you know, that's not how you tickle a baby, you idiot, and you cry. Well, why? Well, it's a pretty high level blow. And so it's the sort of thing you want to do if you want to hurt someone. It's not a good way to teach someone, because you teach them down at the smallest possible level, the micro. No, you don't tickle a baby like that. You tickle a baby like this. And you're doing a good job on everything else. But if you're going to tickle a baby, this is how you go about it. And the person thinks, well, you know, I'm doing a fairly good job, but I've got this little thing I have to work on, and maybe I can manage it. And so that works. And that works. And you can have some sympathy for the person at the same time, because you might say, well, I used to tickle babies like an idiot too, but you know, it's fixable. And most of you is okay. And that's a nice thing to do when you're arguing with someone. You say, look, here's a bunch of things you're doing right that are related to this that are important. Here's a small thing that maybe you could alter slightly and it would make me happy, and maybe I'll return the favor at some point. And they think, oh, well, maybe. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe. And then they practice doing it, and you can give them a pat on the head, and then you're both happy about that. That really works with people. It really works. So